Welcome back to my channel. I am Carlos Suarez Tavernier, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but I am a philosopher, I am a writer, and I do research at the University of St Andrews in the United Kingdom, to be more specific, in Scotland. I tend to focus on art, on psychology, on philosophy, on the history of ideas, and I do so because I do think that looking backwards, looking to what we as a human race have done is super fun, and it's very entertaining, and it's also very useful for everyday life. The more you understand about the past, the more you understand about the future. And also, the more you gain knowledge, the better you become in taking decisions, and the probabilities to have a rich and fulfilled life tend to go up. But in any case, today I'm going to talk to you about Cubism. The reason why I'm going to do that is because I wrote an article on that, and I'm trying to explain a bit further what I said there. But it's also because it's so often misunderstood. Cubism is a movement in art that many people know about, and they tend to relate it to Picasso, which is absolutely fine, but not everyone understands what is going on in a Cubist painting. And so you go to a museum, you stand in front of the painting, and you simply cannot make sense of it. There's a bunch of different forms, super geometric, maybe even stiff, with not the greatest colors in some cases, and it's super challenging. But it's not just because it's visually challenging, but because it's also intellectually challenging. And as I will tell you through this video, it's because Cubism is an experiment, an intellectual experiment. Very complex, but when explained, very easy. So let's get to it. Why is Cubism so famous? Why, even if you live through 4 lives, never spend 1 penny, dedicate yourself to work, hopefully with a market crash in the art world, not even that, with all the savings of lifetimes and lifetimes, you will be able to purchase 1 single Cubist painting because they're so freaking expensive. And there's a reason for that. But first, let's go all the way to the beginning. Where did Cubism came from? Cubism started in Paris. As so many good stories, Paris, 1900s. It was a time where ideas were firing up. So many good things were happening. Writers, poets, painters, musicians. So much going on in that city. The golden age. If I am completely honest with you, if I could go back to a time in our history, I'll probably choose Paris in the 1920s. Yeah, maybe other times too, but that would be one of my top choices. Thinking of Paris, 1910, maybe 1900s, you get 2 guys working there. And these 2 guys, 2 painters, they were trying to change things. They saw life and its complexities. They saw life as something that was not perfect all the time, that it was not like a freezed painting or portrait. They saw life as a monster that was going on all the time, that was changing, that was complex, that had layers and layers and layers. And they just simply couldn't believe that painting was not transmitting that mess. And of course, you see in that time, at the beginning of the 1900s, and you have Impressionism, and you have academic painting, which are all about Impressionism, capturing the moment with shadows, lights, beautiful colors, to make you feel good in a way, to entertain you in a way. And you have academic painting, which is super rigorous, right? Precision style, almost making us a realist painting or a photograph, if you may. Super technique driven, and, academic rigorous. These two youngsters were trying to move away from that. And they start thinking how to break the tradition. Turns out, one of these guys was born in Malaga in 1881. He was accepted at Barcelona's University of Arts. And it was no joke to be accepted there, because it took one exam of 1 month to get in. And not everyone got in, obviously. But this guy came, he was 13 years old. He did the exam, and instead of taking 1 month, he took 1 day. It was amazing, and of course he was immediately accepted to study arts in Barcelona. And if you see the paintings from that period of time, when he was between 13 and 17 years old, there's one specifically that is called the First Communion. I will try and put a picture up here in the video. And you won't believe who painted that. The answer is Pablo Picasso. The one accepted to the University of Barcelona is Pablo Picasso, and one of the founders of Cubism is Pablo Picasso. But there's another one that is usually forgotten in history, and his name, is best known as Braque. Right? Braque was born in France 1 year after Picasso, 1881, Braque, 1882. He was very meticulous. He was not like Picasso in the sense that he was flying lower, he was more discreet, he was calm. He started painting houses, and he was focusing on decorative painting. They moved together, they lived in Paris together, and they were working together over there. And not only sharing a room, but also sharing a style. Talking to each other, thinking about where painting was going and their ideas. They came to the conviction that they needed to do something different. And so they invented Cubism. And that's the reason why when you go to a museum, say the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Met in New York, you have usually 2 Cubist paintings that are almost the same, super similar. You can barely tell the difference. And those are usually one by Picasso, the other by Braque. And you get to see how they were working on the exact same thing. I get this question quite a lot, and is why did Picasso become so famous? And why did Braque, if they were painting the same, almost same style, very high quality both, did not? Picasso became famous because he was super capable of moving through different styles. He was fresh all the time. He came up with new ideas. He managed so many techniques. So you have the Cubist period of Picasso, but you also have the blue period of Picasso. You have the rose period of Picasso. And he was changing. Whereas Braque, remember that we're talking about the beginning of 1900s, when 1914 came, which is the First World War, he enlisted in the army, in the French army. He went to war, got wounded terribly, and so when he went back to painting, it took quite a lot of time to recover and to get himself in shape. And by then, Picasso had left. Braque decided to pursue Cubism, and he never left. There's no other kind of works, if they're very little, and it faded with time. That was a bit of context of where Cubism came from. Now let's get to explaining Cubism. What is going on in the painting? Imagine this, right? This is a figure of a dog. If it was a regular painting, say by any other painter who is not a cubist, you would get a portrait of the dog and you would see the colors in this perspective, right? You would see the side of the dog and, the head and the form and everything. And that's completely fine. That's a style. Now, what a cubist would do is imagine taking a picture. you take a picture of this side of the dog. Now, you take a picture of this side of the dog. Now, you take a picture of this side of the dog. Now, of this side. Now, this side. Now, that side. Now, kind of like this. And so, you get the idea. You take a figure and you analyze the figure from all its perspectives, from all its angles. And if you see it from so many different parts, you will see different sides of the figure. And then if you get all of those images and place them in one painting, in a second plane, just a plane, what you get is a mixture of different angles of one object, and that is Cubism. I'll put some examples here so that you can see what I'm talking about. But that's basically the idea. So suppose you are in a museum, and suppose you're seeing a Cubist painting, say one by Picasso. I can name it Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, super famous painting. You have the image of the woman over there, and the first thing you have to do to actually understand and enjoy that painting and similars is think that what you're encountering is not just a visual expression, but rather an intellectual challenge. You're not just seeing a painting, but rather engaging with it with your mind, because it's playing with perspective. Once you have that, you need to let go of the idea that what you have in front of you is a scene, something, say, freezed in time. It's more than that, because what you're seeing, the painter already saw, but he saw that from different perspectives. So you have a mixture of different angles in one painting. With that in mind, imagine that you are the painter. Imagine that you are the painter and that you walk all around the figure. If we're using the woman as an example, imagine that you're walking around all the women around and you're seeing them from so many different perspectives. Then you take a ladder, you climb the ladder and you see them from the top all the way down. Then you lie on the floor and you see it from beneath all the way up, and you see them from all different perspectives. Now take all those images in your mind and look at the painting again. And the result will be amazing. Because that's what Cubism is. It's an exploration of different angles. It's an exploration of different forms. And it's an exploration of perspective. Okay, so that's the practical side of Cubism. Now let's turn to the theoretical part of Cubism, which is, as it's called in academia, the Analytical Cubism. You have two big branches of Cubism, Analytic and Synthetic Cubism. Analytic, as the name suggests, is about analysis. Is the early Cubism, around 1910, 1912. Picasso and Braque were exploring the phenomenon as scientists more than as painters. So they were breaking apart figures, they were painting them from all the different perspectives, but they were not very interested in how beautiful they turned out to be. And that's why they were using colors that were, for instance, brown, black, ochres, maybe some gold, very few white, because it was about the shades, it was about the perspectives, and that was the way to do it at first. Then, eventually, beginning from 1914, you have Synthetic Cubism, and it took the basic idea of Analytic Cubism, but tried to explore it with colors, with different things, say in collage, and using different techniques. To be honest, the magic of Cubism was that it was an experiment. It was a revolution of thought and a revolution of a visual product. But it was not a style that would evolve through time to become something else. Portraits did. It just began with Picasso with Braque and faded a few years after. They accomplished what they wanted, which was seeing things differently. This is not, of course, such a novel idea. You have the beginnings of Cubism in a way, in Cézanne, who was the beginning of so many things, but it was more of an experiment, Cubism. Then you have synthetic Cubism. And through time, what Cubism actually accomplished was to influence many different art forms. In painting, but also in music, also in architecture, and even in writing. In music, you have Stravinsky, who was super influenced by the ideas of Picasso. In architecture, you have Le Corbusier, who was very influenced by geometric and the forms and shapes, simplicity, perspective. So you have a movement that resulted from the ideas of these two thinkers and artists. As with other styles, there's something to be learned more than what is evident to the eye. And this is the philosophical part of Cubism, and this is purely my interpretation of it, but Cubism invites you to see one thing from different perspectives. And life is pretty much the same. So Picasso and Braque, they were trying to prove a point that sometimes you need to see things from many different ways, in many different ways, and from many different angles, to actually get the full picture. And when life presents us with challenges, when it presents us with beautiful experiences, there's something you can do, which is look at it not just from one point, but rather from many points. And maybe that way, the challenge, the problem, can have many solutions.